I gotta wait till we get closer to it. Okay, here we go. Oh, yes! Ah!
Hey everyone, my name is Zach. I'm a 22-year-old competitive bowler from Canada, currently living near Toronto. Welcome back to the COMPCLIMB training series, where I record most of my training, provide in-depth analysis of every session, and just chat about climbing with an emphasis on competition. So today's episode is going to feature our last couple days of training here in Victoria. This session that we're starting with here is our second session of the day, actually. So yesterday I had a rest day, and then we're back again for day one of our sort of last 2-day chunk of training before we head back home to Toronto. And so yeah, like I said, the session is our second session of the day. In the morning, I went to the other location of Boulderhouse. There are 2 locations, one in Victoria and then one here in Langford. So I went to the Victoria location in the morning, and I was psyched to film a video at this location. It was going to be a gym full of brand new boulders, but I walked in, it was a weekend, and it was just jam-packed. So we just fast forward to this session here, which is our second session of bouldering. And like I was also thinking, you know, I'll probably come back to Victoria before we leave, like for another session, and I can maybe just like redo some of the boulders that I did for a video, which I do end up kind of like the day after this day of training, I go back to Victoria, but it's the same sort of thing. It was really busy again, but I did get one video from Victoria, which will be featured later in this episode, and it was of my favorite boulder from that gym, and it was a really cool slab, which we'll get to later. But for now, we're at Langford, and like I mentioned in the previous episode, the head setter at Boulderhouse messaged me, and well, so what I do is like anytime Maddie and I are in Langford, in Victoria or Langford, which is like, you know, like a couple, like 2 to 3 times a year, because Manny has to come here to check in with our coach Libor so he can work with her in person. So anytime we're here, I message Hamish, the head setter of this gym, and I say, hey, you know, we're in town. Can we like collaborate with you on some boulders? Like, he's super down for like recommendations. Like, hey, you know, Maddie's weakness has been paddles recently. Can you set a few paddles? Or like, for example, this time around, I said, hey, I've been really realizing how much of weakness of toe catches are of mine. Has a very intense looking toe catch at the start, and we're going to revisit that boulder. I knew that I was going to train here again the next day, so I only gave it a few tries because there's some other boulders to attempt in this session, like this blue one here. But we'll get back to that red boulder, and I got a lot to say about the boulder, and I was lucky that Hamish sent me like a really good toe hook challenge boulder to attempt and work on my weakness. So yeah, Hamish is great. He set us some boulders for us to work on. We got a whole new set here at Langford. I finished most of the boulders off on my first couple days climbing here, but now we got like it's not just a new set. This set had like so many hard boulders on it. So I guess I haven't mentioned at this gym. This is like the same, like it's a lot of Canadian gyms actually have this tape grading system because they're owned by a lot of the same owners. So you'll notice like this taping system, for example, is the same as like Joe Rockheads and Up the Block, where pink tape is the hardest, and then black tape is one below that, and then red tape is the third hardest. So we're trying to pink tape here. And just on this new set alone, we had like 2 pink tapes and 3 blacks. So it was pretty sick, actually. Like we had a lot of hard boulders, and and is pretty nice too. Like Hamish is carrying off of the last recommendation that like back in May, I said, hey, can you set us some paddles? Because Maddie really needs to work on it. So not only did he put up a toe catch for me with the red boulder for me to work on, but he also just set a bunch of paddles. I wonder if that was intentional because he remembered that I asked him for paddles last time. So that first one we started with was a paddle, and then this one here's a paddle. But as you'll notice with this one and the first boulder, this one I was not able to. I was originally trying to go like left and then paddle right, left again, but I ended up realizing I couldn't do that. So I tried to stick just the first slipper, which I ended up doing. But I think looking back on this boulder, I probably should have gone 2 hands to the slipper and then done the paddle instead of trying to just paddle off of 1 hand. So I think that was something kind of obvious that I missed on that boulder, and that's probably what Hamish's sequence was. But yeah, the idea with this session was to sort of try and finish off all the other boulders and save the toe catch for the next day, so I could really put a lot of work into it. Just because not only was it a toe catch, but Hamish really took the challenge to heart, and he set a really hard toe catch. Like as soon as I started trying that, I was like, oh, okay, this is like gonna be a limit move for me, so I'm gonna need a lot of tries to do this, and so I'll save it for tomorrow. I just put like a few attempts on to suss it out, and then I went and tried all the other hard boulders. So here we got a cool little Runny-Do black slab tape. And one thing I've actually kind of been realizing with the Runny-Dos recently is I've been feeling like I've been making a lot of gains with Runny-Dos. And It's kind of self-explanatory. Like, of course, if I go and live at Studio Block for a year, I'm going to come back saying that I have a lot more confidence in my running do's. Studio Block is really known for setting a lot of running do's and being able to sort of set boulders that sort of go across a whole wall. And that's just what Eric Heldman, like the head setter, is like all about. He's like, yeah, I just love setting running do's that go across a whole wall. So yeah, of course, I feel like I leveled up my running do's. But it wasn't just by accident. Like, I also noticed myself sort of realizing that personally, I like to be more like super square when I do these running moves. And that was sort of a big sort of revolution that I had with my running do's. And it made me, it helped me level up. And it wasn't just by accident either. It was intentional. As soon as I started emphasizing being really square on my running do's, I noticed that I was able to sort of never bobble away from the wall. Like, a lot of people like to sort of turn to the side and almost run side to side. But I noticed that being square actually helps for me. So I have a lot more confidence in my running do's these days is the point. So here we are for the next day of training. Notice how I do this yellow boulder again. The previous day of training, obviously I kind of held that first hold and then just did a campus move off of it. But I wanted to kind of emphasize the paddle and do it properly because it definitely looked like it was supposed to be a paddle. So now here we are moving on to this boulder, and this boulder was definitely the theme of the session. And I sort of went into the gym only expecting to try this boulder. So this boulder has got a very intense toe catch at the beginning, as you can see, and then it's got like a pretty physical ending as well. But definitely I was working this boulder mainly for the toe catch. Now, this was kind of unfortunate, but even after a few tries, I could almost kind of tell that the toe catch wasn't going to work for me. Nothing that I tried felt really close at all. Sometimes I would try jumping 2 hands, 2 feet, like a full quadruple toe catch. Sometimes I would go 1 hand, 1 foot. I tried almost every combination and I realized I wasn't gonna be able to do this boulder. And so this is gonna bring me into today's tip of the day, and it's kind of a specific one, but there's also a way to generalize it. So today's specific tip of the day is that if you find yourself being a somewhat of a tall climber, you know, sometimes toe catches are gonna just be harder for you inherently, which I find myself sometimes. I'm relatively tall, and so, you know, I will get less tension with the toe hook because my leg will be slightly bent and I'll have to engage my quad a lot harder than maybe someone a bit shorter would. So I find that when I switch to a heel sometimes, I will actually, you know, my body will be the right amount of extended, and the heel, like, not only will my body sort of be extended nicely, and it's just, you know, less bunched than the toe hook would be, but I find the heel is also just a stronger feeling position for me than a toe. And that's a bit of a personal preference, but I think in general also your hamstring is probably just a bit stronger than your quad. So the heel just feels a lot more secure. And so oftentimes I'll find myself, if a toe catch feels too bunched, I'll try to use my heel. And obviously it seems really weird the way I'm doing this heel hook here. Like, it's like, how are you twisting your heel in this way? It seems so awkward. But actually that's like a strength of mine. I feel like I can twist my heels like really aggressively, and it allows me to do a move like this where I use a heel catch. That being said, you can see how the heel almost slows me down enough for my left toe hook to catch. But yeah, that's the only way that I could figure out how to do this move. And this isn't the only time I've done this. There have been toe hooks, even in competitions in the past, like toe catches, where I have not been able to do the toe catch, and so I have to do a heel catch instead because either the toe hook feels like I'm a bit too tall for it, or the heel just feels stronger. But yeah, my specific tip of the day I would say is, if you find yourself being a tall climber and you struggle with toe catches, try doing the move as a heel catch instead, because it's gonna have you not be as bunched. But then the more general tip of the day that we can take from this idea is that sometimes if you have a weakness and you're just like, let's say, of course we want to work on our weaknesses and get better at them so that we can do them. But if we're just in a situation where we know we can't do something because we're not good at it, in this situation, I knew that I was not gonna be able to do that toe hook. It was just beyond me. I conceded that I felt not close in any sort of variation of the toe catch that I tried. So I said, okay, well, let me at least try to do the boulder at any cost then, because I can work this toe catch for as long as I want and I'm not gonna stick it. So what I did is I decided to apply a strength of mine to a weakness move. So I'm really good with my heels, I'm really good with my heel hooks, my hamstrings feel strong. So I said, okay, let me take the strength of mine and see if I can apply it to this weakness. And of course, this is sort of just an easy thing for me to say and generalize, but I actually have another example of this that I've been sort of realizing recently, and I was briefly touched on it earlier in the video, but it's how I've been feeling like I've been leveling up my running do's. And it's because what I've been doing is I've always been bad at running do's, but I'm realizing, hey, let me see if I can take a strong suit of mine and apply it to this weakness and see if it will improve it. And that's by using my open hips. So I have very open hips naturally, but I've also been working on my side splits for years and years, and I'm able to do the side splits. So open hips is quite a strength of mine. So I started to apply this open hip position to running moves, and I sort of emphasize running more squarely on these sort of moves, like especially on this last boulder that I was doing at the end here. Even just that little skip over, I stay very square. And what it allows me to do is stay really close to the wall, and I'm able to take a strength of mine and apply it to a weakness, which were my running moves, and now I make them better. And so it's sort of a similar idea with this toe catch. You know, I'm not able to do the toe catch in a lot of instances, but let me take my heel hooks and my heel hooking power and apply it to the toe catches and try to do some toe catches as heel hooks, and it will help me. So of course we want to try and still work on our weaknesses, like, okay, let me work on my toe catches, see if I can improve my toe kicking and quad strength, or let me see if I can do the running moves where sometimes it is too weird to go square and you have to sort of run parallel with the wall. I still need to work on that. But in the instances where you just are trying to get ascent of a boulder, like especially in an event, if you can have ways to sort of take your strengths and apply them to weaknesses, it can be a game changer, and it can be something that can really help you. But yeah, that wraps up the last couple days of training in Victoria. We always love visiting Victoria to hang out with Libor and get some training in at Boulderhouse. I love Boulderhouse, and there's 2 locations of this gym, and it's always a lot of fun to train at. It probably actually won't be too long until we're here again. I think Libor wants to do another checkup with Maddie at the beginning of next year, so we'll be back soonish. But yeah, now we're back in Toronto, and what I'm going to do is I'll probably, like I said, take quite a short rest week, maybe 3 or 4 days. And in these 3 or 4 days, I'm going to write my next training program. So I'll probably line out a very general structure of my plan, leading into the summer probably, and line out what training phases I want to do and whatnot. And then, I usually what I'll do is I'll write my very specific program a month at a time. But right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write out a skeleton for the next few months. And then I'll write out the first month of training super in depth. But yeah, we're going to start a super high training volume phase coming up. Going to do some heavy duty workouts, going to do some campusing, strength training. It's going to be a lot of fun. So in a few days, you can expect a lot of training videos to come. And I'm really excited to start sort of the next chapter and set some new goals. And yeah, now we've got our eyes on the North American Cups next year. So look forward to that. Insert catchy video outro here.